BlizzCon happened.
Yeah.
Boy, did it.
We talked about it on Extra Life.
Yeah, we watched that thing live on the Extra Life.
Mm-hmm.
The keynote.
Archive coming up soon.
So they started the thing by saying, hey, we screwed up. We acted too hastily. Please forgive us. And then did not announce any actual changes to their policies whatsoever.
Like literally said like our actions will speak louder than words and
Right.
did nothing.
And then did nothing. Yep,
Okay,
okay,
sounds
yeah,
about
right.
Yep.
So, and in fact,
so bad.
so Jay Allen Brack, the current head of Blizzard, did an interview with PC Gamer after that keynote where he more or less kind of doubled down and further clarified that they will not be doing
like,
any.
oh no, we're not doing anything.
Yeah, no.
They will not be doing anything else about the suspensions that are in place.
All right, well, what did you just get up and apologize for then? Because
They apologized for how it looked.
great.
That's pretty much what it was, actually. Totally. Like they split the difference in the worst way, right? Like you either come out with full contrition and like fix everything, or you just blow past it and don't mention it at all.
They played neither side.
Right. So yeah, he flat out told PC Gamer they will not be modifying the suspensions. He stressed, and like this sounds like the most like it's just the worst like corporate.
This is the legal. This is the
Apologism.
lawyer is literally whispering in his ear.
He insists that it had nothing to do with the content of the statement that was made. That it was purely that it was a statement outside of the bounds of Blizzard games.
Right, that they were using Blizzard's platform to make a political statement.
Right. But then it's come to light.
Blizzard uses Blizzard's platform to make political statements.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Also, it's come to light that they've still been policing people outside of their platform.
Right.
Yep.
This happened earlier in October, but I guess it didn't really make press or make waves until like this recent kind of the BlizzCon developments around the stuff that the one of the coaches of the Dallas Fuel, which is one of the Overwatch League teams.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
Jane, he's like a huge content producer too.
Oh, were you familiar with him?
Yeah, I've subscribed to him on YouTube.
The way people were just referring to him as Jane made me think like he's a pretty big community figure.
Yeah.
He had posted on his personal Twitter in support of Blitzchung previously and had been made to delete that tweet from his personal Twitter.
Yeah, which, the whole thing was about like, oh, Blizzard, doesn't want their platform to be used for this. But then here you've got an example of it's Twitter.
Platform.
So
Yeah.
is it different because he's a coach? Does that make him an employee of Blizzard? I don't know what the employment situation is there that they would be able to pressure him.
Yeah, I believe the Overwatch League is operated and owned by Blizzard, so I guess
that's
technically
right.
up the chain.
Yeah.
So that's probably why it would be different than if just like some pro Overwatch player who was not a part of the league said something.
Right.
It's still...
In this interview,
these two things taken together only make it worse. You're like, fuck these guys, come on.
This interview, the same interview, he defended the suspension of the casters that were present during that comment by saying that they failed to keep the broadcast focused on what it needs to be focused on, which is the games, quote unquote.
I feel like that's a real
like...
There's like a grim, almost brutalness to those statements. There's just a cold, calculating tone to that. Like they failed to keep it focused, so we had to take care of them.
I mean, there's
Like
similar
state-sponsored program.
Similar, very like calculated sounding language around like the Weibo posts that were made.
Yeah.
About this stuff, like he really directly passed the buck to NetEase on that stuff. And essentially said, we had nothing to do with that. That's NetEase. They operate our stuff in China.
Yeah. Just let me be clear. We don't publish anything in China. NetEase does.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay then.
Yeah. Just I feel like none of this has been remotely a good look or the right thing to do.
Yeah.
No.
Like the hole got deeper here. For sure.
Yeah. And, that was the first maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes of the keynote.
Right.
And then just let's straight
Nailed
on to Diablo 4. Here you go.
Bang. Games.
Yeah. So, not handled amazingly well.
No.
Anyway, bang, pow, games. What'd they announce?
Actually, right before, I've got one other thing from before BlizzCon that people have quietly noticed that Mitsubishi Motors has pulled out as a sponsor of Blizzard stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like they are no longer...
Is it all of Mitsubishi, or was it just Mitsubishi Taiwan?
Oh, you're right. Actually, I believe this does say that it was the Taiwanese branch of the company was the sponsor of a bunch of Blizzard esports stuff and has withdrawn its support. That was earlier last week before we got to BlizzCon. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we're about to be guilty of the very thing that we're criticizing them for.
Let's talk about the games.
It's not our job to apologize,
which is here we go, just blowing right past that stuff and talking about the games they announced.
Well, I mean, there were also protests at Blizzcon and that sort of stuff. Like, I think it ultimately comes down to a couple of things. Do you think that the protesters moved the needle at all? And if you look at their reaction to this stuff and the way that they have doubled down on that stance, if not deep into the hole with the stuff about Jane coming to light, where's that go for them? Where's that go from here?
Yeah.
Clearly they're trying to have it both ways, trying to say, hey, we really messed up here. Anyway, fuck all these people. It's real.
Like they're showing up hat in hand, but not actually doing anything about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the majority of the outrage is kind of blowing over on this. Unfortunately, there's still plenty of people talking about it, but
that's
the Reddit mass of
the reality of it all.
The very predictable Reddit comment is making the rounds on social media.
How do I react?
Of a guy saying, "How do I restore the Blizzard account I deleted? I really want to play the new Overwatch stuff."
Yeah. And even I want to say it was Kotaku that had the story. Maybe it was Polygon, but someone had gone and done interviews of the people protesting at BlizzCon. And there was one person who just started saying yeah, and they're doing mobile games. And it was like, okay, you're just weirdly mad at Blizzard and you don't care. Whatever you can cudgel in to get back at them for announcing a mobile Diablo game, you're just going to use. All right, fuck. Yeah. So that's all pretty ridiculous for a situation where there's a very real issue. But I feel like what Blizzard has done is maybe the most, like I said, Blizzard uses Blizzard's platform in a political way. You think about, Tracer,
Soldier 76.
Soldier 76, the stuff they've tried to do with Overwatch to be inclusive, the stuff they've tried to do to create a platform. He's literally out there giving this keynote, wearing a rainbow Blizzard logo.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, dude, that's the same shit. That's the same thing. That's all. It's all one. This is all part of that.
It's using people's emotions or ideals.
This is all politics. I don't know what the fuck you think you're doing. Yeah. That's all. There are people out there that are probably greatly offended that Soldier 76 might be gay. That aspect of the game. There are people that but that's a position where Blizzard is more than happy to go actually, we're on the other side of that. And you're like, cool, awesome. And this one,
all that
the math came out differently, I guess. And I think it actually undercuts a lot the inclusivity stuff they did in Overwatch. Where you're just okay, this is just
weaponize it for
dollars and cents.
Or does the math? Or did the math actually come out the same in both cases? That on the one hand, they have decided that both displays of social awareness and kowtowing to the Chinese government are both
positive,
coldly in their own business interest.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's where the numbers net out in both of those cases. It's just it's as crass as possible.
Yeah.
So Diablo 4.
Don't worry, I'm ready to shit all over Overwatch 2, folks.
Okay. Actually, I mean, Diablo 4 looks fine, but it actually also looks like it's kind of pandering to those people that are still mad about Diablo Immortal because they are tripling down on the
people that were mad about Diablo 3
and that
wildly successful video game.
Both of those things.
Yeah.
Because and this is a weird one for me because I have a ton of nostalgia for my own mid-90s teenage self and the amount of metal I was into. And, you know what I mean?
I never
I liked Diablo 1 and 2 back then.
Absolutely.
So on the one hand, it's kind of cool to see a thing that is calling back to that stuff. But knowing that it's just a reaction to people that thought Diablo 3 was too colorful, and I had no problem with, makes it feel just kind of
it's a little weird, but I don't know,
unsatisfying in some way.
I loved Diablo and Diablo 2, and I love hey, don't get me wrong, I love the devil, but it's not. I don't need it to be like that. For the way they presented this, the way they walked out, it's it's fucking dark, right? And you're like, all right, no, I guess, not really. It's not truly fucking sure, okay. It's
that's
it's
cinematic.
And, the cinematic.
That cinematic was pretty gnarly.
But I feel like that's
it's a fucking pentagram made out of blood.
It's 2019. Who gives a shit, man? People are getting murdered left and right, man. You want to see cinematic fucking CG murders in video games? It's all over the place. Whatever, man. Like I guess what I'm saying is like that didn't stand out enough to me to be like, oh man, they're really going for it.
Well, when you combine it with like the really kind of desaturated color palette in the game and like just the general tone and look of everything.
Yeah, they
like
want a vibe, but like there are other games out there doing, like what Path of Exile kind of has that. Yeah.
I was going to say, I wonder how much they are looking at Path of Exile and saying like, we gotta do.
I'm sure it's that, and there are other similar types of games. Like I know some are bigger in Asia that I'm trying to remember. There was one.
What's it called?
There's one that like was cited as like,
yes,
the game they're making is just this.
I heard from someone before BlizzCon that Diablo 4 would be very much like it's. God, the name is killing me. I need to look that up now.
Yeah.
But there's some stuff in this Kotaku hands-on report with the game from BlizzCon that I was going to mention, where they compare it to Destiny in structure, but it also does sound like a lot of these other games.
Yeah. I mean,
like this stuff sounds legitimately cool to me. Like,
yeah.
Here, I'll just read a little bit of this. Diablo 4 structures itself more like Destiny than its predecessor. While there is a main story that players can focus on, the world itself is more open and not merely a collection of zones that you teleport to. Even in the short demo I played, the map was large and held plenty of side areas to explore. Other players crossed my path during my travels, and we were able to help each other out or even participate in world events to defeat unique world bosses. Like there are mounts that you can ride around. Like it sounds like a much bigger, more contiguous space where you, much like a Destiny or maybe some of these other games, like you just sort of stumble into, here's a thing happening in the world. Yeah. And like maybe I'll do some of this, or maybe I'll go over here and jump into this cave and do some stuff.
I feel like that was always the promise of like Torchlight when they first like, hey, we're gonna make a Torchlight MMO. You're like, okay, cool,
totally.
Like that's kind of the stuff that I felt like maybe Diablo 3 would catch more of. Would as bringing that stuff in, and it didn't, and it felt almost like more like a throwback.
Well, think about how much more encouraged live games are at this point. So it makes sense to have this environment where anything can happen at any time. So you should play it all the time.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's every game now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's all fine. I don't know. Like I think, yes, what Diablo 4 is, I think sounds cool. I think the way they presented it was, I don't know, needlessly junior high fucking metal like fucking this is gonna be
like I am shocked the guy didn't just come out and like throw up the horns in the middle of that presentation.
Yeah, it had that fucking like check out these corporate ass horns.
Now if he had come out in a fucking denim jacket with patches all over the back.
Or if he'd come out literally drenched in blood.
Yeah, one of those things.
Like bite a head off a bat.
Yeah, like I feel like they, like if you're gonna say like, hey, this game is fucking metal, like you need to go further than that.
Yeah.
And so them getting out and saying this game's going to be dark and occult, and look at this
here to announce
that is dark and
occult. Glenn Danzig.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
Have him come out.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm torn.
Pull the microphone down for you, Glenn. Okay. Go for it.
I'm torn because like divorced from both like their political gaffes recently and also the way that this just seems to be sort of pandering to people that were mad about Diablo 3 and Immortal. Yeah. Like this sounds and looks pretty cool.
Diablo 3 was a tremendous game. Yeah. So a follow up to that, sure, of course. Yeah. I'll look at it.
I mean, I do like the look of this.
Remember the real money auction house?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
the early days of Diablo 3.
I made $5.
I know somebody. Nice. I know somebody that sold an item on there for like $600 or something.
Damn. I was on the wrong end of that though.
Yeah, that's real money.
Yeah,
that's real money.
That thing was wild.
Bank.
Yeah, that's bank. You're earning a lot of rep.
I think they said it's out next year, didn't they? Or did I dream that? Let me double check.
I feel like it's out next year. Whether they said it or not, that seems like
late 2020 delayed into 2021.
Sure, why not?
Doesn't have an official release date. Currently in development for PC, PS4, and Xbox One.
When you think about this in terms like, okay, this was a game they almost announced last year.
Yeah. And they were supposed to. They've come out and said as much, that they were like getting ready to do it, and then something very last minute happened.
Yeah. So if you figure they've had a full additional year to spin on it, this and then you also layer on, this is a company, this is a part of Activision, a company that needs to start shipping more video games.
Yeah. And loves to ship them annually where possible.
Yeah, not that Diablo would ever go. I don't think Diablo would ever go annual.
No, but they'll put out rapid
seasons,
updates for stuff. Yeah,
but like this seems like something that would come out next year. Just looking at stuff, and to the point where you go like, oh well, okay, Well, also walk back the math on timetable stuff. They announced it for PC, PS4, and Xbox One.
Right.
So if you're shipping a viable, I mean, whatever, these games eventually come to PS5 and
maybe they come out. Maybe Diablo 4 comes out next holiday and just launches on both.
On everything. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Or maybe they launch one SKU that runs
comes
on
out,
both.
comes out
like,
mid-year and then
what
whatever. I don't. Yeah, however they end up doing their cross-gen stuff. But yeah.
So yeah, Overwatch 2 is a weird product. Whoa!
Wow,
I didn't expect that.
Wow,
but,
that's
sorry.
Control yourself.
Are you taking bong rips over there? What?
Man,
I have to deal with Overwatch 2 in my own way.
I mean,
right,
the most genuinely surprising aspect of this to me is that pretty much all the new multiplayer stuff is going to come to both games, and they will both play on the same servers.
You don't want to split the multiplayer base. I think what they're doing, that aspect of this seems smart.
That's the only part of it that seems smart to me.
But then that leads to the question of what is Overwatch 2 and how much is it going to cost?
It's the PvE
and,
stuff.
How much does that really add to what people want out of Overwatch?
It's the PvE stuff, and they'll put some skins in there, right?
So the way they've broken it down is they're doing a bunch of PvE stuff that's going to be story focused.
Mm-hmm.
They launched with that kind of lore to date trailer.
It's 4-player. So let me back up real quick. As somebody who actually knows, and I know Jan also knows Overwatch, has there been any hint of this? We need to get the band back together because people hate Overwatch and we broke up the team stuff prior to the announcement of Overwatch 2?
Like the stuff in that cutscene that they showed at BlizzCon where it's like, oh, Overwatch was disbanded and we've got to get the team back together.
Have they been building up to that, or is that completely out of left field?
That's kind of like Overwatch. I thought that was Overwatch 1 before.
Yeah.
Overwatch was the team way back in the day, and then
prior to the first game.
Yes, prior to the events of the first game.
So the story of Overwatch is just a metaphor for Titan's development, is what you're saying?
God, everything's a metaphor and nothing is. But yeah, no. So now this is it was a big. I mean, I know the Overwatch lore, meaning I've watched anytime there was a new character trailer, I watched one of those, and that's about it. So I have a very loose understanding of what's going on. But yeah, it seems like this is we are getting the band back together because of a new threat. Well,
the second time.
They were never actually
together. They never back together.
Overwatch wasn't an official group. I would say in the first game, it's because that was also their way to justify why is Reaper on a team with Soldier 76?
I see.
Yeah.
Because it was all about the War of the Omnics and I forget the name of the bad organization. There was
Mayhem.
Mayhem.
Miles Mayhem was the leader.
So yeah, this is from the sound of it, a bunch of 4-player PvE missions against robots.
Who the fuck wanted
this? The characters have a talent tree, or you level them up and unlock new skills. And
people love that Overwatch lore. They need to do something that ties into. I think they needed to do something that could convey lore in game.
Yeah.
I think that makes a ton of sense.
And it sounds like the demo level they had playable at the show is basically tells the story of how Lucio rejoined the team.
Okay.
From the sound of it.
Cool.
It's set in Rio.
So that'll be cool to see once.
Yeah.
And then what?
Right.
And there are multiple difficulties, so who knows if it's Left 4 Dead kind of thing.
The fucking... We've also really want to nail home that we've upgraded all these characters' looks. Check out how crazy Mercy looks now.
Yeah.
It's the fucking same.
Yeah, when they kept showing, we've really redesigned the models, and they kept showing Tracer, I was like, that's Tracer.
It's the same. Genji's Hanzo's got a shirt now.
Great. Totally. All right, I'm on board.
They just look like a skin, and not even all of them. The Mercy one, straight up. I literally, if you showed me the two pictures, could not tell you which is the new one.
She has a new hat.
Okay, she has a new hat and smaller feet. I saw somebody got really mad that they made her feet smaller.
That happens when you get old,
I was angry.
man.
I'm sorry. I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think the big question is how much does this cost?
Yeah.
Because if you can still play multiplayer, so the way it works is all your old skins will carry over from 1 to 2, but none of the 2 skins will carry over to 1.
Yeah, so it's basically, and also the clients at some point merge. So Overwatch 1 players are playing Overwatch 2, quote unquote, but they just want to have access
to or whatever.
At that point, why put a 2 on this? Why not just call this
because
some kind of
it markets
expansion
better, because they can put it on stores,
Fortnite
shelves.
But it also confuses people.
I don't if it confuses people, it's going to confuse them into buying more of the thing.
Maybe.
So I think it works in their favor to do it. But remember, this is a game on consoles as well. It's a game that does exist on store shelves, and being able to put something back out there that says, here's Overwatch 2, I think makes sense.
Are you saying that they're...
As opposed to, like, if here's Overwatch Season 2, or if they just, like, hey, here's a big update for Overwatch, that's a murkier sale.
Are you saying that they are maybe trying to lure, let's say, more casual fans, or let's say slightly lower information fans
1,000%
into buying a sequel without knowing that they could get a lot of that stuff for free?
Yeah,
totally.
Definitely.
That is as devious as I can possibly imagine for this strategy. Like,
hey man,
like
that's. But like they're gonna promise the campaign or like the story stuff or what have you.
They're just not going to be very forthcoming about the fact that, hey, you could actually get the parts of this you care about for free with the game you already have.
Well, I think they're banking on people actually caring about the other stuff. And
well, I'm largely going on his reaction.
Like, I don't think they're wrong to bank on that. I just think the issue is like what they showed of what that campaign or what those missions seems to be. Feel more like replayable co-op stuff as opposed to a cohesive.
Yes,
here's the story of Overwatch.
What I'm like, I think the lore of Overwatch is interesting. I think there's a lot to go with there. I think people have really latched onto those characters.
Yeah, totally.
But like,
you can watch. There are so many videos of those characters fucking.
Oh my god, yeah. There's thousands of terabytes.
People
number one in trends last year.
Did people import those models into Source Filmmaker or something?
Oh.
It's not always Source Filmmaker. I think Blender gets used now a lot of the time too. Anyway. So actually, not to just fucking completely derail this conversation, but someone wrote to me over at Jeff.Zone and made me realize the most exciting part about Death Stranding coming to PC.
Oh.
And that's Conan O'Brien having sex with Tracer.
Finally.
Conan's gaming channel is about to
it's going to get real good.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff Keighley just watches.
I'm not 100% sure those are fully fleshed out 3D models in that game.
I feel like they'd be I feel like you see full bodies like they're
yeah, but those could be static like 2D assets that were pre-animated.
No, because you can move the camera.
Can you?
You can move the camera.
Well, I thought the camera was
you can
locked
zoom in. You can
those.
do all that stuff. Like you can move it.
I'll have to go back and look.
Maybe they only exist as like holograms.
Because I feel
like if they only existed as holograms, they'd look better.
I mean, they run at like 15 frames a second. Like they intentionally look kind of shitty.
Like they look like just low rent, low poly models.
Yeah, they do.
People.
They do.
But
we'll see.
Anyway, that's the hope. Yeah. Is that finally?
Fingers crossed. What I was gonna say is like just make an Overwatch show. if your goal is to like deliver the deep Overwatch lore, these like somewhat non-replayable 4v, a bunch of robots with like a cutscene probably at the beginning.
Let me just ask you guys real quick, because you played the game. This Kotaku hands-on describes the PvE stuff as like they basically said it, quote, felt like it could easily just be next year's Overwatch Archives event. Like, does that ring a bell? 100%.
Like that's what we talked about last week, right?
Yeah. Like the Halloween one was like
it's
Dr. Junkenstein's whatever, and so
right.
it's like 4 people defending a bridge against a bunch of robots.
So I feel like when you're saying like, hey, the boxed sequel to this game feels like it spawned out of a seasonal event mode that they did in the past.
Well, I think that's the kind of that's sort of the weird part about it. Is like to me, like the ideal for a campaign would be like, here's a true campaign with levels you're moving through and a story that's being told along the way and all that other stuff. And this seems more like a Horde mode,
right?
But and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Horde in Gears of War is very popular. Like you can do these 4-player co-op PvE things really well and make them popular, but more importantly, really replayable.
Right.
To your point.
I'm wondering if
that stuff could be very.
If there's some sort of AI director equivalent here that like changes up the mission composition.
Yeah.
Those seasonal events, they're like fairly small though. They're very like self-contained. I wonder if these missions are supposed to be big sprawling things where you're running around.
It does. This very much says you're moving through a designed level from start to finish.
I'm
with set pieces
ready to be proven wrong on this stuff. But think about what Blizzard. Well, I mean, what other single player story-focused stuff have they really done? Diablo,
StarCraft has a campaign.
Yeah,
okay,
like
the StarCraft campaign.
Yeah, I mean those are different teams. Like it's kind of apples and oranges.
Yeah,
but they have done certainly some very good single-player work.
I just
in
don't
the
know.
past.
I don't know,
but not in a game that exists 100% in multiplayer form. Prior to this, more or less.
I wonder if you're only choosing from a pool of characters for the campaign versus who your main would be, and if you can actually go through the whole story with them.
It's just, I think the weirdest part to me of this is like the people who are still really passionate about Overwatch are the people who are out there playing the Overwatch PvP right now. And I can't speak for everyone, but like as somebody who I haven't played in a couple months, but I got really back into it this year, there was at no point during that was I like, yeah, I'm here for the lore and the characters. It's like, no, I'm here because like they designed these characters in an interesting way, and it's a fun competitive thing that's like pretty quick. Like I can play a couple rounds and then leave.
See, I think I'm trying to look at it as like, how would they look at it? And they would look at it as like, the numbers on these videos are very high.
Yes.
Like people seem to be very engaged with our characters when we introduce them in these trailers. The trailers do well. Like the thing they keep hearing from like maybe the deepest fans of that game is that they want to know more about the characters. And so they probably set out to go like, okay, this is actually a really good thing we can bolt onto the existing game, and actually we can make that a selling point of just like, hey, here's how this could still work, and you pay for this thing because we're pretty sure that people want more story from these characters. I think my problem is like when you look at the hands-on, when you look at the stuff they showed and how that stuff seems to be built, that doesn't seem like the most efficient or most rewarding way to put story into a thing. I would think that like, and maybe I don't know, maybe they don't do it this way, but I would almost think that you play those missions in a story sense, and maybe you get a limited pool of characters there.
Yeah.
But then maybe there's also a free mode where you just kind of bring in whatever.
Right, like you revisit these levels with co-op afterwards with whoever, but the initial run-through is like, oh, you're playing it from Tracer's perspective or Lucio's perspective.
Or if you want to play
smart
it
to
the
force,
lore way.
to force you to play every character at one point in that thing.
And I think that's stuff that like, you know, like that ship has maybe sailed because Overwatch was so popular already, but like there's really room, or there was at a time, room for like a really solid mode that introduces you to the lineup. Here's what they do. Here's what they're all about. Here's what they're good at. Here's why you should play as this character.
Yeah.
Like if you could convey that sort of stuff and almost build a pseudo tutorial out of your campaign, like that's going to create a new inroad for players to get in. They didn't need it though. Yeah, new players. Because like as it turns out, Overwatch people were more than willing to learn it.
Yeah.
Overwatch is fucking huge. They don't need it. They don't need it anymore either.
And again, a game with a 2 on the end is primarily, I feel like, targeted at people who are already in. You know?
Yeah, but it's also it's a new point for people to get in. Like people who didn't get in last time or you know, like fell off and they're like, oh, all these events sound crazy. Like it's a new opportunity for them to go like, oh, 2, this is like a big step forward. This is where I want to jump back on.
And they're still going to be playing the same online multiplayer as people in one at the end of the day.
There's only one new mode in the multiplayer.
Push.
Which sounds like it's basically just an evolved form of the main mode.
Yeah, it really does not sound that different.
It's a mode where the payload can go both directions instead of only one direction.
I feel like they said as soon as they announced the name of it was Push, I got like 80% of what that mode was in my head. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Also, the payload is a robot this time. That talks.
What's the mode in Call of Duty where it's like you're in a squad of 5 and like there's just a shit ton of people?
Ground War.
Ground War. I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Imagine how insane that would be.
Here's a 32 v 32.
Yeah. It's fucking doubles of everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That'd be neat. That'd be ridiculous, but neat. I don't know. I think that like they're smart to not leave Overwatch 1 players behind. I think that you're right that it's creating the situation where people might go like, oh, I don't have to upgrade at all. But I think you're underestimating how much people will go like, especially if it ends up being $40. You know, remember they will certainly have a $60 version of this.
Sure.
But there's probably going to be a $40 version that doesn't come with as many skins or whatever.
Yep.
And that will feel like a reasonable thing. The reasonable expenditure for people who maybe have spent hundreds of hours playing Overwatch already and maybe even spent money on boxes.
And it's doubly so that your costumes carry over.
Right, yeah. So you're like, okay, well, I still get to use all the stuff that I got. There'll be new stuff to get. I'm going to play this game for another 1,000 hours. I might as well just get it. I think it kind of just becomes that type of no-brainer for people who are still investing hours and hours and hours into Overwatch. So I get that, like, I feel like it's murky. I feel like that when you stare at it long enough, you're like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Hang on. But I don't know. I don't see it as necessarily being a huge problem, other than I think as someone who wanted to be into Overwatch but realistically was never going to stick with it, a proper campaign would be something I would buy and play through. That'd be something that would at least get me to come back for the dozen hours or however long a campaign would be, because that game always felt great. The characters always looked nice, and I wanted to like it more than I did. So something like that was more, up my alley. Like I would certainly try it out.
Yeah,
and I would go buy that game to try it out. So I think that it's murky, but I think it will work out just fine for them in the end.
Oh yeah, I think it'll work out fine for them.
Yeah.
What does it cost?
$40.
I think they do it because that's how it was last time, right? There was a $40 and a $60.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
And $60 came with the legendary hot skins.
Okay, in light of that, I could see the $40. That does that makes more sense.
I bet they just do the same thing this time out, and the $40 version is like, oh, you just want the co-op stuff, but you don't want any of the skins business.
I was just taking it for granted that they would try to charge full price for this, but if it comes in 40.
Was it the console versions where there was no boxed $40 version of that game? I think only the physical copies were only the
I think that's right.
The high end edition.
Yeah.
So presumably you would still have a situation like that. Yeah, I don't know. Like they don't split the player base, and that's good because you don't want to create a situation where, like, oh shit, Overwatch 1 is still somehow more popular than Overwatch 2.
Or even if it's taking 30% of players away, that's 30% of people fewer that are not playing.
Exactly. So you just makes sense at some point to keep that player base together. So I think I view it more as just like it's a bonus for Overwatch 1 players that they can stick with it until they can afford to get on board.
Yeah,
whatever. They are not left behind.
I will say from a business point of view, I think they're making the right calls here. I just don't think the thing is appealing to me.
Also, now that I think about it, it's not like they aren't still monetizing Overwatch 1 players with all the skins and stuff like that they sell. So.
Yeah, but I wonder if they eventually get to a point where it's like, oh, you unlocked a skin, but you can't use it. Click here to buy now. If they do that, that's always like that next level. Like, here's stuff you could be using right now if you gave us $60. $40, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think, whatever. I always come back to just like externally from the outside looking in, people are crazy about the Overwatch characters and the lore and the fan art and the community and all other stuff. Like people fucking love those fucking characters, except for Reaper. People love those fucking characters.
If people don't love Reaper, how come he's the star of the official porn parody?
Because they're trying to redeem him.
Okay, I got you. They're trying to push
a redemptive arc. You gotta get Reaper out there.
Do people hate Hanzo, or they just hate Hanzo players?
Hate Hanzo players.
Okay. Yeah. But
Hanzo's cool.
Okay.
Hanzo and Genji are all right.
What about Genji? I was gonna say, is that the same situation?
Yeah.
People hate Genji players.
Yeah.
Harsh.